was 26 when this happened, and it was my first time ever going to Coachella. My friend Alyssa and I had talked about going for years, but either money got in the way or one of us couldn't get time off work. That year, everything finally lined up, so we actually committed to it. We flew out to California, rented a little 2-bedroom Airbnb, and made a whole trip out of it. We were both really excited because neither of us had ever been to a festival that big before. We had both been to smaller concerts and local stuff, but nothing on that level. The whole first day honestly felt like stepping into another world. Everywhere you looked, there were huge crowds, weird outfits, music coming from different directions, and people acting like they had no responsibilities at all. Best way to put it, it was a fairy tale world. It was kind of overwhelming at first, but in a good way. We had a really good first 2 days, nothing bad happened. We saw a bunch of artists we liked, took pictures everywhere, ate overpriced food, and stayed out late. We were tired by the end of each night, but it was worth it. By the third day, we were exhausted, but it was that kind of exhausted where you know you just have to push through because it's the last day and you don't want to waste it. Before the trip, Alyssa had brought up the idea of bringing Molly. I had only done it one other time years before, and it had been fine, so I agreed. We kept saying we'd save it for the last day, and that's exactly what we did. Looking back, I wish more than anything I never touched it. We took it in the late afternoon before one of the sets we were really excited for. At first, I didn't feel much. We were walking around trying to get closer to one of the stages, and I remember saying to Alyssa that I thought maybe it was weak or old because it wasn't hitting me. She said the same thing because she wasn't feeling much either. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then, out of nowhere, it started kicking in hard. At first, I actually liked it. I felt lighter, more social, and everything around me seemed brighter and more exciting. The music sounded amazing. I remember thinking that I understood why people did it at festivals. But after maybe an hour, something started bothering me. I kept noticing the same person. At first, I thought I was imagining it. There were thousands of people there, so of course you're gonna accidentally notice the same outfit or the same face more than once. But this wasn't like that. It was the same actual guy. The first time I really noticed him, he was maybe 20 feet away in the crowd. He looked older than most people around us, maybe around 35. He had dark hair, kind of scruffy facial hair, and was wearing a black shirt and boots, which already made him stand out because most people there were dressed way lighter and more colorful. He wasn't doing anything crazy, he was just standing there looking in our direction. I didn't let it bother me at first. Then later I saw him again near one of the drink stands, then again when we were moving between stages, then again when Alyssa and I were standing off to the side near a fence trying to decide where to go next. After the 4th or 5th time, I told Alyssa I kept seeing the same guy everywhere. She laughed and right away said it was probably just the Molly and that I was focusing too hard on random people. I remember laughing a little too because I didn't want to sound too paranoid, but it was getting hard to brush off. It wasn't like I was just noticing him in the distance once in a while. It felt like every time I turned around he was there. Not right next to me, but always somewhere in view. Hours went by like that. I was trying to still enjoy myself, but the high had started feeling off. It stopped being that warm, fun feeling and started turning into this restless, overstimulated feeling. My jaw tensed up, my heart felt too fast, and I couldn't seem to relax. I told myself I was probably dehydrated or tired. We had been doing a lot all weekend, barely sleeping, walking around in the heat, drinking, everything. At one point when we were packed into the crowd waiting for another set, that guy finally came right up to me. It happened so suddenly that I froze for a second. He came up on my side smiling and started trying to dance near me like he was just some random friendly festival guy. Then he leaned in and started saying stuff to me that I could barely hear over the music, but it was obvious he was flirting. I remember him saying I looked really good and asking if I was there with anyone. I told him I was there with my friend and tried to be polite about it because I didn't want to set him off or make a scene. I kind of smiled and shook my head and said I was good. He kept hovering though. It wasn't aggressive yet, but it was pushy enough to make me uncomfortable. I turned to pull Alyssa closer to me so we could just move away, and that was when I realized she wasn't there anymore. I started turning in circles looking for her, thinking maybe she just moved a few feet away, but I couldn't see her anywhere. That made me panic way faster than it normally would because of how off I already felt. The guy noticed right away that I was looking around and asked if I lost my friend. I said yes. Then he said he could help me look for her. There was something about the way he said it that made me instantly not trust him at all. It was too eager. I just told him no thanks and started pushing my way out of the crowd. He didn't grab me or anything, but I could feel him watching me leave. I finally got away from that stage and found a patch of grass farther back where it was quieter and less packed. I sat down because I felt like my body was shutting down on me. My vision started getting weird in a way I never felt before. The best way I can describe it is that everything looked squiggly. Not blurry exactly, but like nothing would stay still. The lights, the people, even the ground all had this shaky look to them. It scared me because I knew then that I had taken too much or had some kind of bad reaction. I started calling Alyssa over and over. The calls kept failing or not going through because the service there was terrible. I probably called her 10 times before one finally connected. When she picked up, I could barely hear her, but I just kept telling her where I was and that I needed her to come get me because something was wrong. It felt like forever before she found me, but it was probably only around 15 minutes. She could tell right away I was not okay. I told her I needed to leave, and she didn't argue with me. We ended up leaving the festival way earlier than we planned because I was having such a bad high. The walk out felt endless. Every noise felt too loud, and every person brushing past me made me jump. I kept looking around, half expecting to see that same guy again, but I didn't. Back at the Airbnb, both of us were completely drained. We had one more night there, and then we were flying home the next evening. Alyssa started talking about packing some of her stuff up that night so she wouldn't have to do it in the morning, but I told her I'd do mine tomorrow. I just wanted to lay down. My body was exhausted in a way that overpowered everything else. Even though I was still high, I felt so physically dead that I just crawled into bed, shut the light off, and laid there in the dark. I didn't feel normal, but I felt too tired to care. I must have drifted off into this half-sleep state because I wasn't fully out, but I definitely lost track of time. Then at some point, I opened my eyes. I have no idea what woke me up. Maybe a sound, maybe just my body being on edge. But the second I looked toward the bedroom doorway, I saw a figure standing there. It was tall and completely still, just inside the doorway, facing me. At first, my brain couldn't even process what I was looking at. I thought maybe Alyssa was standing there for some reason, but it was too tall and broad. Then I focused on the face. Even in the dark, I could tell. It was the man from the festival. I know how insane that sounds, especially with the state I was in, but that's exactly what I saw. He stood there looking at me from a few feet away from my bed. I remember this horrible, cold feeling going through my whole body. Then I started screaming. Not just yelling, full-on screaming as loud as I could while throwing the covers over my head like that was gonna do something. I kept screaming until Alyssa came into my room. The second she turned on the light, there was nobody there. The doorway was empty. The room was empty. Alyssa kept asking me what happened, and I was crying so hard I could barely get the words out. I told her I saw the guy from the festival standing in my doorway. She looked freaked out by how serious I was, but she kept telling me that it had to be the drugs and that I was still having a bad high. I honestly wanted to believe her, because the other option was way worse. But what bothered me was how real it looked. It didn't feel dreamlike at all. It felt like waking up and seeing an actual person in the room. I begged Alyssa to sleep in the bed with me that night, and she did. Neither of us wanted to go back to sleep after that, so we laid there talking quietly for a while with the lights on in the hallway. She kept trying to calm me down and make normal conversation. Eventually, somehow, we both drifted off.